want to see what I charge for this job? Then watch till the end. Hold tight. Hello, welcome to my channel. In this video you're going to see me working on a gravity fed heating system, relocating a radiator, draining down, refilling with inhibitor, bleeding, and all the hassles that come with an old system with 16 radiators. Hold tight. So a very quick demonstration of a gravity fed system. You've got the F&E tank in the loft up here with a crook, an expansion crook. That goes down. If you look on the right, you've got your hot water cylinder. The water comes down, the cold feed comes down via gravity from the loft and it goes into the boiler. To the left of the boiler you can see a pump. The pump is normally pumps it round the system, and then if you look further around you can see the radiators. I think this is a S plan where it's just singles, and then back to the boiler to heat it, and then the water goes to the hot water cylinder indirectly with a coil inside and comes back. That's a very simplistic view of what we've got, but there's much more detail on the internet. So welcome. In this video I've messed up slightly and forgot to film the radiator as it was in situ. So this clip you'll see me with the radiator was already not connected because they've had the wall plastered, and it was too far out to run the connections. So I was called in to put some 45s on it, and so to control where it stuck out. So this is where we are at the moment. So this radiator is on the ground floor. There's 16 radiators in this property. The customer informed me there was no drain offs, so I've been using my self-cutting fitting on the 50mm copper pipe at the lowest level, and I'm cutting into that so that I can then allow the radiator to drain off, and then I will fit a drain off afterwards. But then as I cut into this, the customer then informed me the drain offs were outside, hidden in some brickwork. So I then scrapped this idea and drained down outside, very conveniently, 2 drain offs which worked perfectly. So this is the F&E tank. So we just propped up the bore valve, stop it. You've got to be very careful you don't disturb all the debris in there, because that'll block the system. Then you're cutting bits of pipe out. So that will get wet vacked out later, and I'll have to clean that out. And then I'll inhibit the system, so we've now draining down. So at this point it's important, before draining down, that you hoover the tank out and get all the dirt out and sludge. And I bunged up the tank as well. We've got bungs where you can create a gravity lock in it to just do one radiator. But I'm draining the system down fully and inhibited it, needed flushing. So I've bunged this up, and I'm going to show you how I wet vac it in a minute before you drain down. If you don't, you will block the system. All the sludge will go down and into the system. You'll block it near the pump or controls. Clean. I'll give it a wipe out with a rag before I fill it, but nothing like that will block it up now. It's a little bit there, but I'll wipe it over and rinse it through. But that's what you need to do, is it will go in that just there, gravity fed outlet, and it will block your radiators up. There you go. So this is the cold feed isolator from the main water tank. So I've isolated this. I've now got the F&E tank isolated. I've turned the shower pump off. I've turned the thermostat off on the hot water tank, and I've also and the controls are all off, and I've also isolated the boiler. So now, because the F&E is all clean, I can continue to drain down the system and not block it up or damage any controls or pumps, because everything is now off. So I'm draining down now from outside. Can you hear this hissing? So you undo the bleed valves on the upper radiators first, and especially the highest ones like the towel rails, and then once they've emptied and the water's lowered to the ground floor, you then open the downstairs ones, and that'll allow the system to fully drain. But be careful, you remember where the radiators are, which ones, because otherwise you'll have a flood when you fill up. So now we've fully drained the system. I commence cutting the radiator outlets and adjusting them to allow me to fit the radiator and connect up. So I'm using my 15mm pipe cutter. I've cleaned off the paint, and that allows me to cut the pipe at ground level. I then plan to clean off the pipe and solder onto it, and then fit my elbows, allow me to connect the radiator up. So you've got to clean off the pipe work, be very careful not to damage it. It's going to be quite tricky soldering close to the flooring, but the customer is having this redone, and you'll see me soldering it up later. So I'm prepping the pipes now for soldering. So I'm cleaning them all off and I'm using my deburring tool. This deburrs the inside and the outside of the pipe. So there's a nice clean edge on it with no burrs which could affect the soldering. So I'm going to use two 15mm end feed street elbows to connect these together so they'll allow for connecting to the radiator. So I'm just dry fitting at present. Street elbows are where it saves you using two elbows and then soldering a piece of 50mm copper pipe in between. So that one end of it is the size of a copper pipe and the other end is the size that allows it to go in. So it's like a male and female coupling. So I've cut the pipe now and it's all in position. It's all dry fitted. And then I've carefully cleaned the pipe. You've got to make sure you clean it thoroughly, get all the grease off and the dirt. Try and use new copper and new fittings. Otherwise you could have issues. And then make sure you use a soldering mat. You've got a fire extinguisher nearby. You correctly flux it up properly and then use the right heat on the gun. You can look at lots of videos on soldering, but I'm just showing you quickly how to do it on site. Make sure all the paint's cleaned off. Make sure you mark the pipes with a bit of pencil so in case they move slightly. You don't want them moving so you can relocate them without having to dry fit the radiator again because radiators are very heavy. So I've got all the safety in place. I've got my goggles on. I've fluxed it up. I've got my solder correctly ready and the heat gun and we're ready to solder away. So soldering nearly complete. Once it's done, I fully check it, have a good look around it, make sure it's all the solder's moved around correctly, and then I will then get a very damp cloth, rinsed out cloth, and then clean off any excess flux. And then later on I'll use some Brasso and clean it all up so it looks very good. So here you can see me using a slightly damp sponge. You've got to be careful because you could crack the solder. And that just gets off any excess flux initially and starts to cool the pipe. Use joint compound on the compression fitting there. That's got PTFE on. All soldered, clean. I'll give it a quick Brasso once I've filled and checked for leaks. Same that side. So I'm going to go and close all the radiator valves. There's all your rad valves. I've done it before, we've all done it. Thought, what's that water leaking out? If you've forgotten a radiator. And there's loads in this house, it's 4-bedroom. So close all your radiators. I've done downstairs, I'm just doing upstairs, then we'll go in the loft and put the inhibitor in. Up in the loft where no man should ever have to go, or woman. Anyway, I'm adding the inhibitor now. So I've now fully soldered it, let it cool. I've checked it. So I'm going to start to refill the system. So now I'm going to add the inhibitor into the F&E tank. This will definitely go through because the F&E tank will be calling for water. So generally we would put it in a radiator if we hadn't drained down because it wouldn't go in thoroughly. So here you can see me adding the inhibitor and this stops a build-up of sludge over the years. So the soldering's complete. Beautiful. So we're refilling the system now. Okay, so make sure you bleed the radiators correctly. Make sure you don't leave any valves open. I didn't record this because I had a lot of issues in the property with air locks. The air emitters valve wasn't working correctly. It didn't bleed properly. I had to redrain it. It was full of sludge. Ideally it needs a system clean, but I've filled it with the inhibitor. I've reflushed it. I managed to get it going. I got the boiler at an airlock. It took a while to clear. We just kept having to bleed. This is an old system, never been maintained, with 16 radiators. It's a 5-bedroom house. So in future, just make sure you put in your terms and conditions that you might have issues and it might need a power flush because you can leave yourself wide open. But the procedure is to close all your radiator valves. Once you've drained, close drain offs, fill the system, bleed all radiators, check for air locks before you turn on the boiler and all the controls, or as you could damage the pump. I'm sorry I didn't film this, but there's lots of videos on how to refill a gravity-fed system, so take a look at those. I hope this video has helped. Please like, subscribe and comment, and I've left some affiliate links for some of the stuff I used in this video. I've got plenty more videos, so please take a look on my channel. Build Stuff and Bikes. Hold tight. So, what did I charge for this plumbing job? Well, I did, on my estimate, I quoted at 45 an hour. for moving the radiator, repiping it. But when I got there, I did warn him it can be, estimated time would be, because it's not on a day rate as such, would be any time from 2 hours to 8, and it could be more if we got problems with the system. The customer then informed me that the system had never been drained, didn't know where the drain offs were. I eventually found them behind a brick outside, which was convenient once I found it, but there was no drain offs, only the radiators, and you'll see I'd started to use a cut-in piece to drain down, self-cutting. But so in the end I was there 8 hours. I had to go and collect a few materials on the way in, so that's the 45 and I went a 360 plus inhibitor and other little bits, copper fitting, solder, flux. So the invoice was £383. So that's what I got paid today for this plumbing job. This is a regular customer. I do other jobs. I'm property maintenance as well. I'm multi-trade. So they're an elderly couple. They're a lovely couple, and I look after them. But amazing to take 8 hours total, because I could not get that system to bleed properly. Had lots of problems, 16 radiators, a lot of drop down legs from above where it was catching, and just trouble after trouble really. But we achieved the objective, so hope that helps you.